Hey everyone, and welcome back to Startup or Shut Up, the show where we dive into the stories of creators, founders, and solo dreamers who said yes to their ideas even when life said no. I'm your host, Nurse Colin. That's Colin with one L because I'm a short king, obviously. Today's episode is vulnerable, honest, and so damn inspiring. My guest is Marissa, a creator, children's book author, and self-love warrior whose TikTok became a place of healing, and not just for herself, but for thousands of people around the world. Her content is about what happens when life falls apart and how to start putting the pieces back together. And today we're talking about all of it. The breakdown, the rebuilding, and the beautiful messy middle. Let's get into it. Marissa, thank you for being here. Let's start with your story, not the filtered version, but the truth. Who is Marissa today, and what did the journey look like to become her?
Gosh, I feel like I've always been trying to figure out who's Marissa, and maybe I'll never know that answer, but yeah, so I mean, to be honest, like I grew up in the same small town as you.
Yes.
You and I come from a very similar upbringing in the sense of it's a small rural town, and everyone knew everyone's business,
Yes.
and that's a good and a bad thing. I learned a lot of how to just stand up and be yourself, but also how to be an individual. And so, because of that, I was able to move outside of Branch County and world. And so as I've explored the world, I've experienced a ton of pain. And I think just what sets me apart is that pain, overcoming it, digging yourself out of the trenches and genuinely believing that there's light at the end of the deepest, darkest tunnels. And so, yeah, I'm excited to bring my passion to your podcast today.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely interesting growing up in a town of just a little over 1,000 people. Living in Chicago, my high rise is actually probably a little larger than the town that we grew up in. So,
Yeah.
which is hilarious.
Yes, there was one stoplight and it flashed after 10. So
Yes, exactly. So let's jump into your first question. What was life
yeah.
like before the healing began? The version of you that hadn't really started picking up hadn't really started picking up the pieces.
Yeah, so I think the downfall to growing up in a small town is they didn't know what mental health was. They didn't know how to handle someone with anxiety or anything like that. And so as I was a teen navigating into college, I was someone that suffered with anxiety to a point where I didn't even know how to handle it. And that kind of took me into this pattern of not giving to myself and continuing to give to others, continuing to bring everyone else what they needed. So that idea of people pleasing and all of that. And so that created in my 20s a person who people pleased and really didn't know what they wanted out of life and really didn't know what life could give. And so I got into a really unhealthy relationship when I was 25, 26-ish. And for 4 years, I just lived in this unhealthy relationship and it just got worse and worse. And ultimately, a few months before our wedding, I caught her in bed with a married man, and we ended things. And that's where healing started. Is like, okay, you don't love yourself enough to know boundaries. You don't love yourself enough to know what you're okay with. And so I had to, from the ground up, pick up the pieces of my life that I thought I knew I wanted, and I got to redefine it. And I think that's the most important part is you're never too late to redefine your life. You're never too late to redirect or pivot is the word I use all the time. And so ultimately at 29, 30 years old, I was pivoting to a life that I didn't know how to pivot from. And so it took a lot of work. It took a lot of healing and life coaches, therapies, all the modalities to basically get myself to a point of where I love myself. And yeah, so that's kind of just a snippet of how I got to the darkest moments of my life.
Yeah, definitely. So can you describe those feelings and sensations that you felt in that exact moment, in order to be able to start discovering yourself?
Yeah, so I always describe it as a pile of dust. I felt like my life was a pile of dust. I felt like I couldn't even pick up one piece of dust without not knowing what to do with it. And so, how do you pick up this life when it feels like a pile of dust? And I felt like I was going to amount to really not much because I was 30, I wasn't married, I didn't have quote unquote kids, because that's what everyone's in our hometown, that's what everyone's expecting you to do. And
Absolutely.
so it's just it's a hard realization to kind of pivot from. And so really diving into, what does Marissa want? What does Marissa need out of life? And so much, I was tapping into so much more creativity, and I'm excited to share just like how my creativity got shared throughout platforms of social media and things like that, because I never knew there was a world outside of, me, and that people needed to hear this message. A lot of times people go through things and they're like, oh, no one needs to hear it. Like, no, other people are going through this too. And you have the opportunity to like walk beside them and say, like, hey, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I want to be here because I've been through something similar.
Definitely, 100%. So as those feelings were starting to progress, was there a small flicker of light, that moment you started to think maybe there's a way back to myself?
Yeah, honestly, my therapist said start journaling, and I said I don't write, so you can go elsewhere. I'm not journaling. And she was like, do anything, and I was like, fine, I will video journal. And so her goal was literally just me go spend time with myself, because after a breakup, the one person you don't want to spend time with is yourself, and so she forced me to spend time with myself and really fall in love with myself again. And because I protested so hard against writing a journal, I decided to vlog basically my solo dates and me going on a date with myself, to just be able to tolerate and stand myself, which is a sad reality. But I started just taking a camera with me when I would go pick up takeout and listen to whatever music I wanted. And I started documenting Friday night at a Mexican restaurant and going shopping and things like that. Um, and she wanted proof. And so I was like, fine, you just look at my TikTok. And that's kind of how the evolution of solo dating kind of came into my world, as I just started documenting my solo dates. And then one Friday I posted my solo date and it just like took off. And I was like, oh gosh, there's not just like hundreds of people watching, but now there's thousands of people watching. And I thought that was as big as I would get, right? And then I just started like every week documenting what I was learning, what I was reading that was really captivating to me. And so throughout that, I was able to be a healing platform to so many going through what I was going through. And it was just really cool to walk alongside so many people. They joined in this walk with me. They motivated me to keep doing my solo dates. They gave me ideas for new solo dates that I wouldn't even have thought of, such as like charcuterie board at home with yourself and doing a painting activity. So it was just really cool to see how it took off. And then all of a sudden, I've got a post going viral with like hundreds of thousands of views on it. And I have 500 notifications on my TikTok, and I'm overwhelmed
Wow.
now. I'm like, shoot, my therapist did me dirty here, like making me video journal. I was not expecting this, and it's a wild world, but it really opened my eyes to so many people go through heartache, whether it's a breakup, a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one from death. We all hit these pits in our lives, and what do you do from it? Like, do you learn from it and move forward from it? And that's where I genuinely like, I had a choice during the breakup of staying stagnant, staying where I was, being okay and just like miserable, or day in and day out choosing a better path. And I think it's that day in, day out choice that you're choosing to grow, you're choosing to evolve, and you're not okay being content. And it's really hard for people who maybe grew up in a very small town to expand their horizons, especially when that's all we know. Um, it shocks people all the time, like, wow, you're on TikTok, like you're famous. I'm like, I'm not famous. I don't have that many I have a decent amount, but I'm not like, but I have been spotted in the wild. People have come up to me. That's cool, but I'm not famous. I don't do this for money. I don't do any of this other than for myself to heal. And so it was really cool just to have a platform that ultimately just showcased healing and showcase if you put yourself first, so many good things happen. And I promise like it gets better, but it doesn't stay great forever. Like even though I had this huge downfall 2 or 4 years ago, I had great years in between, and then I had another kind of hiccup in my life where I lost the dream job. And it's like,
Uh,
how do you pick up these pieces? And so I'm here to be transparent. Like just because life gets better for a little bit doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, but it's that day in and day out choice of choosing to grow and choosing to evolve.
Absolutely. And as far as like your courage showing up online, what's keeping you driving in order to continue posting?
I've really struggled with that because I'm not in that like sad girl healing era anymore. And so it's like, how do I relate to these people who are still sad? Because I'm living a very happy life right now, and I'm just excited about so many things. But what I try to show is growth, and what I try to show is like it's not picture perfect. And I've been very transparent on some of my videos of like I'm having a hard day. And yesterday I was having a great day. And it's okay to have hard days. And so, honestly, the thing I try to show most is transparency. I want people to see I'm human and that we as humans go through ups and downs, and that just defines us more and more. So, I feel like that's really where um, I try to focus my energy now. But I kind of just let TikTok do its thing. I let it just I don't sit and fix on algorithms or anything like that because I've always said I'm not in this for anything other than showing my journey.
Hmm.
And if my journey reaches one person, that's amazing. If it reaches 1,000, that's amazing. So that's kind of just like how I got to where I got to. But let me tell you, in the middle, you get to this point, and you're like, ooh, I could be really famous and I could make money and I could, whatever it is, like, but I had to reel myself back and realize, like, this is not what I'm doing it for. I'm doing this for myself. I'm doing this so others can see, like, you can dig yourself out of pits. And that's the cool part of it. And so I think that's the benefit of TikTok. You see all these people doing things similar to you or doing life and they have similar experiences, you can relate. And people ultimately in this world just want to relate with others.
Definitely. Yeah, and that takes me over to our fun fact. As of 2025, over 170 million Americans are on TikTok. That's more than half the US population. That's literally wild. You're literally telling your story in one of the biggest digital living rooms in the world. How does that make you feel knowing your healing journey is unfolding right in front and impacting that many people?
To be honest, it's scary because I don't like people knowing my life, and like I just exposed it to the world. I was only supposed to expose it to my therapist. And now what my therapist knows, 40,000 people follow me and know that too. So it's just like, dang, I let a lot of people into my life. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share, but it just motivates me to want to do more. And so, one kind of project I've turned to is taking that healing journey of falling in love with yourself. And I've written a book on that healing journey, and it's not published yet, it's nowhere near ready, but like one day I will, all because of TikTok, which is wild to think. Like, I wrote a book because TikTok, and my therapist wanted me to journal, and I didn't want to write. So I videoed it, and now I'm writing a book about that journey. And it's just wild to me that I've been given a platform that has the ability to reach people across the not only country but world. I've had people reach out to me from all different aspects of this world and just say, I go through something so similar. I want to do better for myself. I want to leave a job that's a dead end for me. And how cool is that they think I'm like a mentor or someone that holds like some type of platform that they can come to and get encouragement. And so I love that. I love the ability that TikTok has to reach people who can't be reached or they don't know how to get out, especially growing up in a small town, you don't know what's out there. And so TikTok gives that ability to reach people who don't know what's out there, what could be better for them.
Startup or Shutup is brought to you by peerfounder.com, the launchpad for solo entrepreneurs, creators, and dreamers ready to build something real. We're dropping our community forum soon, a space to connect, share, and grow with others on the same grind. At peerfounder.com, you'll also get access to learning modules to level up your skills and our crowd lending platform where funding meets trust, not credit scores. And if you're an angel investor, this is your chance to get early on a movement that's changing how people access capital and community. So don't wait. Head to peerfounder.com. That's PEERFOUNDER.com and join the waitlist today. Your idea isn't small. It just needs the right space to grow. Let's build it at peerfounder.com. Do you remember that first video that went viral and resonated with people? And what was it about? And what did that moment feel like?
So the first big viral, like I would say over 100,000 views and, overnight, I had notifications on my phone at the time, and my phone was going off nonstop with notifications on your post, on your post, on your post. And I'm like, what is going on? I did not want this. It was just me reading a passage from a book that talks about loving yourself so hard that it gets better, though. And choosing yourself and choosing to forgive yourself for all the things that you've overcome and what you had to do to overcome. And so it just really resonated with me. When we're healing, we're not this picture perfect version of ourselves. When we're healing, we're broken, we're sad, we have to isolate sometimes, and sometimes we lose friendships because we chose to isolate. And that just resonated with me. And so I was just saying, like, hey, listen, it's okay that we're choosing healing. It's okay that sometimes you have to go silent. It's okay that sometimes you didn't eat the healthiest meals or you didn't make it to the gym, but you still are healing and you're still choosing this, and that is the best part. And go you. And it resonated with me, and obviously it resonated with hundreds of thousands of other people. And I was just sitting reading a book with my coffee, and it just blew up, and I'm like, what is going on? I didn't even know that you could like overlap audio at that time, so I
Oh,
had to repost it because it got so big. Everyone's like, oh, I want to use this as a sound. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that. So I was not a TikTok influencer at all at that point, but I have learned how to make my own audio and sounds now. So we have advanced.
that's cool. That's cool. And you kind of started talking about the self-love, and it can kind of feel abstract. What does it look like for you day to day in real life now?
Yeah, day to day in real life, it looks, totally different than it did 4 years ago when I was coming out of a breakup, not knowing what self love was. Self love to me now is respecting what I need, what my body needs. If I need a day of rest, I take a day of rest. If I need isolation, I take isolation. If I need friend time, I reach out to those people. It also looks different when you're in a relationship that's healthy. You're like, wow, okay, this is nice, but how do you take self love when you're in a relationship? Well, you ultimately have to set that time apart. You
Mhm.
set your time apart, and you set time. Hey, this morning I'm gonna go get coffee on my own, and I'm gonna work from the coffee shop. And you're just, I'm so just kind of focused on making sure I get some alone time. That's not me sitting at my desk working. It's alone time that I want. And so now a lot of my alone time is me utilizing creativity, and we'll talk about it more later in this podcast. But how I'm using my creativity, how the sparks have kind of started just going, and I'm just so excited to just unleash all this. So yeah, it looks different. In the book I'm writing, I have maybe 3 or 4 pages full of things you can do that look like self-love and what that means. And they're all so different because it depends on the day, the mood, the person, what you're going through. And so some days, I'm lucky enough to live in Florida. I can go to the beach and
Mhm.
just sit on the beach and put my feet in the sand, and that's self-love sometimes. So
Cool.
yeah.
You also mentioned the people pleasing side of you, growing through all this journey. What are some things that you had to unlearn about yourself to break that people pleasing and to help grow into who you are today?
Let me tell you, I am no perfection. Like I'm not perfect at people pleasing or not people pleasing. I still do it to this day. It still pops up. It's ugly head, but I think just the awareness that I need to put myself first and I need to take a step back and see what I need. And so it is that I go back to it, that day in and day out choice of growing and evolving and recognizing where you need to grow. And so I just choose like I try to take a step back in the moment of, okay, what is this telling me? What is this situation trying to lead me to? And ultimately, a lot of times it is, I'm trying to please that person to keep the peace, but my internal head is not peaceful right now. So why am I doing that? It's just that constant battle, but recognizing you're in the driver's seat. And I think that's the coolest kind of flip in the last year, in the last few months even is I haven't been in the driver's seat, for years, and I've kind of allowed that people pleasing to drive me. Now I'm in the driver's seat of my life, and I'm choosing every day to grow, to evolve, to be better. I have people in my life that make me better. I don't surround myself with the negativity, and if things are draining my energy, I'm choosing to release it. And ultimately, I just feel so much more in control. When you're in control of your decisions, you're driving yourself. And I wasn't totally in control. I mean, I had a therapist telling me to document journaling. I had a therapist telling me, this, or my parents or my friends were telling me all these things. And finally, I'm just like, enough with the noise. The only noise that's going on is what I want. And it's a really cool way to live. Kind of selfish, but I deserve to be selfish.
Absolutely. It sounds super powerful. Um,
Yeah.
what do you do in order to stay grounded while being so open online? Like what boundaries, you talked about boundaries a little bit, help protect your peace.
So I turned off notifications. I don't have notifications on my phone. The only thing that I
Interesting.
get is yeah, I get a little ding, or not a ding. I get just the pop up on my screen for text and calls. That's it. I don't have social media notifications. I'm not in this for making my name out there. I'm not in this to become a household name or anything like that. I'm in this for my own journey. And turning off notifications was the number one thing. But also, I quit caring what presents I brought and just kept bringing what I wanted. And so I used to post a lot of selfies because I thought I got the most likes out of those. And I don't post selfies anymore because if I want to feel good, I'm going to tell myself in the mirror that I look good, not getting it from other people. And so I think it's just evolving and understanding where I fit into social media right now. And that is just me enjoying life and figuring it out as we go. And I could be better at posting, I could post more, but ultimately, I think the biggest struggle is how do I reach an audience that is so focused on healing when I personally am not really in that healing phase anymore. So, do I just create a whole new TikTok? Do I, those are kind of decisions that I still weigh with. But I let it flow. And if I want to post something, I do. If I don't, I don't. And, I try to post exciting things, but I utilize social media in so many different ways. Facebook I utilize for family and that like life I had back home in a small town. Instagram is, life that I've had outside of that small town, life I've grown into, and people I've met along the way, and that they're just part of my journey. And then I look at TikTok, and that's just this like huge platform that so many people are involved with. And so I definitely keep my personal life more on those first two
Mm.
and not as much on that last one. Not only for safety, but just right now where I'm at in my life, I'm still figuring it out what I want to do for my next steps, and I think we'll always be figuring it out. But I've kind of like segmented those social media platforms.
Yeah, tell me, you mentioned that you've been spotted in the wild. Tell me about that first time experience that someone was like, "Oh my God, you're Marissa."
Yeah, so I was on a sibling trip with my brother, and we were in Austin, Texas, just sitting watching a drag show, just having a time of our lives. And all of a sudden, this person comes up and they're like, "You're Marissa. You're the girl that solo dates." And I'm like, huh. Yes. Like I was so like taken back. Like, okay, first off, I didn't think anyone knew me other than people in like my circle, surrounding circles. I thought
Mm.
that's how people knew me. And so my brother's over here, like, are you serious? You're famous? He doesn't do social media. So he's like very confused why this person's coming up to me, buying us a drink, like giving me a hug, taking a picture with me. And my brother's like, I'm so confused. I'm like, look at me. I made it. Like to my brother, he was taken back. And that was the moment I was like, wow, people are listening and they hear me. And it was wild. Yeah, I was spotted in Austin, Texas. And it was really cool. And I don't know. I've been spotted a few times at different events around this area where I live now. And that's been really cool. But the first one with my brother there who does not do social media, I was like, yes, that was cool and powerful because he thought I was cool.
That's super cool. Let's kind of touch base on your interaction with your followers. Has anyone sent you a message or left a comment that totally stopped you in your tracks?
Yeah, so there's been a few that just sit with me and resonate. One being someone just stuck in a really unhealthy relationship, and they said because of my video, they filed for divorce and they were leaving, and
Wow.
they wanted to just stand up for themselves and
Hmm.
leave abuse. And I felt like I did not deserve, the credit because it takes so much to choose that decision to leave. And we've all been there where we're like, do we leave? Do we not? Do we stay? Is it hard? It's hard to leave. Leaving is the hardest thing you can ever do, but it's step by step, day by day. And so when someone said that it was my video that motivated them to take that first step, it was everything. Like that's ultimately I'm grateful I went through what I did because people got out of unhealthy relationships with others. People found healthy relationships within themselves. I think how cool that I was a vessel of that. And I can't, I can't say like, man, I wish I'd go through all of that again, but I'm grateful that I got to go through that journey and that I'm strong enough to like overcome it. And now others are seeing that light in me and doing the same. And ultimately that those moments stop me in my tracks. But I'm one of those people that try to reply to anyone that messages me, unless it's like
Cool.
a creepy like you're so cute. I'm like, okay, we're not doing that. Like, we're not doing that. But if it's inspiring or if it's like, thank you so much for helping me heal, like, I will respond. But if you just say, hey, I'm
Hmm.
probably not going to respond. But if you like give me a detailed message or something like that, I definitely try to get back to everyone. But the first few days, it was overwhelming when I was like going viral and viral after viral after viral post. I couldn't keep up. But I just knew like I tried to comment on as many as I could. And ultimately, I knew that they were still watching and they were still
Hmm.
learning. And I was reaching an audience that I never would have been able to reach if there wasn't social media.
Totally. If you could sit face to face with the version of you now from that lowest point when you caught your ex, what would you want to hear at this point?
It gets better. And that's what I tell myself every day is like, you're going to go through some of the hardest struggles of your life and you're not going to know which direction you're even going. But life does get better because of you. Like you chose to make life better. You chose to do better for yourself. And ultimately that's all you ever want is to be proud of yourself. And I think I did a really cool TikTok video. I wrote a letter to myself. And in
Mm.
that letter, it basically says, like, you're going to go through some of the hardest moments of your life, but you're going to experience some of the happiest moments because you didn't even know what joy was until now. You didn't know what joy was until you loved yourself. And so, experiencing joy in the way I experience joy now compared to who I was then when I was a shell of a human that didn't know how to love themselves and didn't know what boundaries were, like how exciting it is to just keep, learning and growing.
That's super inspiring. Okay, so we're gonna switch over to a quick rapid fire round. Um,
Let's do it.
just go with your gut, no overthinking. First word that pops in your head. Okay. Are you
Okay.
a morning or a night person?
Morning.
Book that changed your life.
Oh gosh, there's so many. You Are a Badass.
Awesome. TikTok trend you actually love.
Anything with my cat.
That's hilarious. Um, what's something you do when no one's watching that makes you smile?
I dance and I'm horrible at it.
That's so funny. Um, first song on your healing playlist.
Rise up.
Go-to comfort food when you're feeling sad.
Mac and cheese and hot dogs.
And biggest lesson TikTok taught you in one word.
Growth.
Wonderful. I love that. And rapid fire complete. All right, let's switch over
Perfect.
to your book. Let's talk about your
Yeah.
book you're writing. It's such a powerful
Yeah.
extension of your journey. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah. So I started writing that healing book years ago, and I kind of just got in a writer's block. And so I never wanted to force myself to write. Recently, I have just felt this urge to be creative. And I had written a book back in college. It was a children's book, and my professor begged us to publish it. Unfortunately, that professor lost their life to cancer, and
Wow.
I decided that I was going to follow through on that promise, and I published that book. And so it is officially out. It's the ABCs of the Farm, and I love when kids express themselves and can be whoever they want to be. And as an educator, I, for years, just instilled this passion in my students and in the teachers I mentored to let the kids express themselves for what they are and who they are. And so I wrote a book that they also can color the pages too. So it's a coloring book and a book that kids can color whatever they want. You know, I try not to put too many adverbs in there to tell them what to color. Like the barn can be green, the zucchini can be purple if you want it to. Allowing them to be creative, allowing them to learn their alphabet and basic reading skills all throughout that. I will tell you though, it has been the coolest thing to unlock that creativity. Once the wheels started turning, I now have another book that's about to be published this week, The ABCs of the Ocean. I have another
Oh,
one coming
wow.
out at the end. Yeah, I have another one coming out at the end of the month on ABCs of School. And so it's just like unlocking all these creativity things. But I also am super excited because I'm writing books that aren't just the ABCs, but that are, you know, one being a character of myself growing up in a small town. What was that like? Everyone knew your name. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? And so just going through that childhood experience and writing a children's book on that, I never saw myself as an author. If you put this on my 2025 bingo card, that was not in it. Like being an author was not in the bingo cards for this year. I was going to wait a few more years, but ultimately the world had other plans for me. And I'm very excited at the momentum.
Yeah, I was about ready to comment. Coming from someone who absolutely hated writing, refused to write for journaling, and then now is writing a whole bunch of books.
Oh,
Absolutely
yeah.
incredible. So
Let
why
me
do you...
tell you, our high school teacher should be proud because
Oh, yeah.
every day at lunch they were with me begging me to write anything for what we read, and I was like, I hate writing, I hate reading, I hate all of this, and here I am writing books.
Yeah, we definitely surprise ourselves sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that this story need to be written rather than just like posted or filmed in a different media in order to be kind of preserved?
I did the first book, the ABCs of the Farm, in honor of that professor because I wanted to follow through with that promise I made her, and I dedicated that to her. And you know, I try to price it so I'm not making all this money. I'm just, you know, getting the book out there because I loved writing it back in college. It brought kind of just the spark then. And now I'm just, all I'm doing is spending all my free time writing. And I'm like, who am I? I don't even know. Like, I'm about to have a library of books myself created by me. And that's so cool. But let me tell you, it's coming from a small town, you're just like, that's not what I expected out of my life, but I am damn proud.
So cool. What do you hope someone feels when they finish reading one of your books or and what have you?
Yeah, so with the children's books, I hope that they just genuinely feel like they can be themselves. I never want to put a kid in a box. I never want to make them feel like you have to do it this way. There's not one way to everything. And giving kids the freedom to color their own pages of their books, like I think that brings so much individuality. And in this kind of world that we live in, kids deserve to have some individual like freedom. Ultimately, when my book, and I say my adult book, comes out, I want people to know that healing is not pretty. It is not linear. It goes in ebbs and flows. It's up and down. You have good and bad days. You could have a great month, and then all of a sudden you're hit with a grief or a trigger of some sort. And I didn't write the book for anyone other than myself, in the sense of it was healing for me. But if I can reach one person, that's all it takes, you know? I think that's the difference, is like, I'm not in this for anything other than helping people see what I went through and growing from that and choosing to do that for themselves.
Great. Final question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
For someone listening right now who feels broken or stuck, what's the first thing you'd tell them to do today?
Make your bed. And I say that it's a weird request, right? Like, make your bed. No, but it is one thing that I do every single morning that is a task that I can say I did. And that's like a motivation of, I made my bed, I'm up and I'm going. Now what's next? And having that plan, that step by step, knowing that nothing happens overnight, nothing changes overnight. We are literally just doing our best. Every person out here in this world is doing their best. Make your bed, and that is one like achievement you did for the day. And then you're moving forward. It's the momentum thing. Once you have things falling into place, it's like the snowball effect. And I live by that, you know, like that momentum carries you. If you're full of momentum, then that snowball is going to just get bigger and bigger, and great things are coming.
Yeah, objects in motion stay in motion, right?
Exactly.
And if someone's listening and they want to connect with your story and want to follow along, where can they find you?
Yeah, so TikTok, Instagram, both are the exact same. It's RIZZ326, which somehow Marissa got turned into Riz in high school. And so that's like my high school nickname. So it stuck. RIZZ326 was sports numbers 32 and 6. So that's just how you can find me. I love to connect. I love to just kind of be a momentum and a supporter for people along the way.
Great. Thank you, Marissa. Thank you for showing up and being so open and reminding us that healing isn't just possible, it's powerful.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
To everyone listening, if you're going through it right now, remember this. Your story isn't over. And maybe, just maybe, the messy middle is where the magic happens. And before we wrap up, get ready for a wild next episode, y'all. I'm sitting down with Cool Mom Wallace, Chicago's own multi-dimensional artist, DJ, rapper, and co-founder of the queer collective Futurehood. He's not just building beats, he's building portals. I caught him live at Boiler Room Chicago, and let me tell you, he didn't just play a set, he shifted the whole room. He's DJ'd for Beyonce, he's creating safer spaces for queer futures, and he's joining us on Startup or Shut Up to talk about art, nightlife, and turning your truth into your power. Catch the next episode Tuesday morning, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been Startup or Shut Up. I'm Nurse Colin. Keep creating, keep healing, and keep telling the truth out loud.